And welcome back. We're about to venture off into our second conversation. This is Open Your Eyes on a beautiful Wednesday morning. We've got Yakshe Conservation Trust and Maya Mountain North Forest Reserve. Now to tell us more about it, we've got Christina Garcia, who is the Executive Director. We also have Gutierrez, who's the Protected Areas Program Director, and Maximiliano Caal, Marketing and Communication Manager, Yakshe Conservation Trust. Guys, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Thank you.
I can feel a southern breeze.
And I see chocolate.
Yes, I see cacao. We see honey.
We see chocolate.
Yes, chocolate.
Thank you.
So we know that production is definitely going on. But let's get to it. And just reading this morning, the Maya Mountain North Forest Reserve, I see the greenery, and it's definitely someplace I wish I could be at. So tell us about it.
Yeah, we at Yakshe, we work to find harmony between nature and human development for the benefit of both. We do this through two of our main programs, Protected Areas program and Community Outreach and Livelihoods. Through our Protected Areas program, we manage 3 protected areas. We manage the Golden Stream Corridor Preserve, which we own and manage, and along with the Forest Department, we manage Belize Nature Reserve and Maya Mountain North Forest Reserve. And within Maya Mountain North Forest Reserve, you're allowed to do certain activities.
Yeah.
But these areas are surrounded by community lands, national lands, private lands, and this area makes up which we call the Maya Golden Landscape. So this is our focal area of work. And within this area, we do research. We'll be talking a little bit more about the wildlife that we've been seeing within the area. And as well, we work with communities. We work with communities to train them how to do better farming, like cacao-based agroforestry.
Yeah.
We raise awareness on various environmental issues. And as well, we build the capacity of local community groups. One of them is, as you can see here, we have honey. Training farmers and helping them to become entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is such a great model, and you know, I think you joined us the last time and talked about how important it is that you work with the communities that are that do live around the different reserves. Talk to me about the establishment of not just working along with the community, but allowing access to an area that usually would have been off limit, especially when you talk about conservation.
Exactly. So that is what we do basically. And Maya Mountain North Forest Reserve is a very unique area because it's the first ever agroforestry concession that has been established in Belize. So it is a model that
and break that down for what that means. When we hear concession, it means you get access.
You get access rights to land. In this case, the Trio Farmers Cacao Growers Association, they got access rights to 936 acres of land within the Maya Mountain North Forest Reserve. So it's very unique in the sense that a forest reserve in the country of Belize, you can do certain activities, and agroforestry is one of them that is permissible.
Yeah.
So at that time, we felt that this was going to be a very good activity and model for Maya Mountain North, given the past experience of the protected area.
Yes.
Because in the past, it didn't have any management, and there was limited enforcement happening within the area. So we felt that this was a good opportunity to instill stewardship within a community such as Trio.
Yeah.
And also, it's very unique in the sense that the group itself, they wanted to not only get access to the land, but they were also interested in conservation, in going along with rules and regulations. So they basically developed their own rules and regulations for this agroforestry concession that came within them. You know, it didn't have to come from Yakshe to say, oh, well, you know, these are the things that you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
It came from them along with us and in partnership with the Forest Department.
Yeah. And they can use the area of the reserve, but only for forestry activities.
Yes, so they have a 15-year permit signed with the Forest Department and Yakshe. So the activity that is permissible is only agroforestry.
Okay, so in that particular area, you know, we're sure to have other people wanting to move in because they want to become entrepreneurs. They want to do. How can they be a part of this?
They can be a part of this. Like, for example, the Trio Farmers Cacao Growers Association, they're not only venturing into cacao, but also honey. Honey wasn't something that, apiculture wasn't something that we had placed in the agreement itself, but we found other avenues to enhance their livelihoods. And one of those avenues was really honey, because there's a market for it. But we have been working with farmers that are not a part of the Trio Farmers Cacao Growers Association, but are part of the apiculture team, apiculture group.
Yeah.
So we managed to get access to them into the protected area so that they can set up their apiaries. And this is a model that everybody is seeing, and this is something that we feel could be replicated in other protected areas in the country, and we could get other farmers involved in such practices. So we do believe that it has huge potential for that replication, but also for enhancing livelihoods.
And you also work in teaching sustainable farming practices as well. So you're not just opening up the area, but you're ensuring that the farmers develop habits that are sustainable for the land use over time.
Yes, exactly. And that's what we have been doing since 2002. Educating, building awareness on these smart agricultural practices, because what we're saying is that there's a different way in doing farming. We know that traditionally the slash and burn is used, and we know that it's not the most effective or most sustainable way of doing farming. And that's the reason why we promote strongly the agroforestry and the ingale cropping, which farmers have been utilizing. We have 80 farmers that are utilizing this method, and we also have approximately 10 model farms in the Maya Golden landscape, just really showing these smart agricultural practices.
So the success of this collaboration, I think, would be able to be seen from the contentment of the farmers and the communities themselves. What would you say has been their experience in your interaction with them? Anyone?
Well, throughout the Maya Golden landscape, they have been very receptive, and they have been adopting the farming practices which we promote, the ingale cropping, the agroforestry, beekeeping, even the backyard gardening. And we also brought in someone from Cuba over the past few months to train them in organic fertilizers and how to work with the environment as well. But within the Maya Mountain North Forest Reserve, we actually just concluded a case study which showed that the 31 members of the Trio Farmers Cacao Growers Association have been very happy with the progress so far. They have already planted over 240 acres of cacao. Cacao has been producing already, and as well, they have been facing challenges within the area. But that's all part of working in this remote area at Maya Mountain North Forest Reserve. But the farmers, they're very happy with it. Now they have honey which they are producing. They're selling it locally. We have also sent a couple of samples to the UK to see how the market is. That would be the next step of our work, promoting the different products which the farmers are producing.
Yeah, but it seems that the model is actually working. And Mr. Caal, you did mention that there are three particular areas that you own and manage. Now we're talking here specifically about the Maya Mountain North Forest Reserve. Do we see this, or can we envision pushing this elsewhere in this particular area so that we can continue to create entrepreneurship and jobs?
Exactly. That's perfectly, as you describe it, how we want this model to work. We realize that this is a model which could be used in near other forest reserves in Belize or elsewhere in the world. And we are also documenting the processes that we've been taking and the successes that we've had, the challenges that we've had. And it's a replicable model. It's a model that not only supports livelihoods, but also protects the environment.
Yeah, you know, and I definitely want to touch on some of the challenges. Reason for that is because people are wary of it, and it could eventually withhold me from wanting to be a part of it. So what are some of these challenges that we're seeing, and how are we dealing with it?
Yeah, some of the challenges that we've seen, and we've made several appearances on the news due to these challenges. One of the biggest in Maya Mountain North Forest Reserve is the dereservation that occurred in 2015. That has been really impacting the work that we do within the agroforestry concession, because you have people entering illegally into that area, people doing a lot of the burning, the slash and burn. There is cattle ranching occurring. There is fencing that is placed near the river, you know, and there's a lot of community members that depend on that water stream. There's the usage of chemicals being sprayed, you know, near the agroforestry concession, which has an impact on the certification that these farmers need to receive on an yearly basis for them to sell their organic cacao. So those are some of the challenges. That is also faced with illegal hunting. There's a lot of illegal hunting occurring within the protected area, more so before, but I think that has decreased a little bit because of the presence that Yakshe has had within that protected area doing enforcement. And of course, with the new partnerships that we have a very good partnership with the Belize Defense Force, which we conduct patrols on. But still, that is a very sticky point.
You still have timber extraction too?
There's less of timber extraction, but more the illegal hunting. There is not right now in Maya Mountain North, we don't have a logging concession, an active logging concession, which is really good. And later on, Said is going to talk about this, the marvelous wildlife that has been found within Maya Mountain North. So we totally are not in favor of having a logging concession within that area because of the findings and because of the research and monitoring that we've been doing within that area. But yes, the dereservation is impacting what we're doing within that area.
To be clear, because when we do talk about illegal hunting and those types of activities, it's usually in the Chiqui Bowl and we're talking about Guatemalans coming over.
Yes.
But your problem is it's locals.
It's locals.
Your assumption is that it's locals that are
Our
participating.
assumption is that it's done by the local communities within the area.
Yeah.
Is this because of the distance between the border and where the protected area is?
The protected area is very accessible to community members, and it's a 33,000 acre reserve.
Wow.
So it's fairly big.
Yeah.
So people enter from all angles of the reserve itself. But what we're trying to do is to build on that awareness within communities. Yakshe took over management in 2015, so it's not really a long time to see some of these changes that are happening, but we are making strides in terms of educating people the do's and don'ts within this protected area.
Well, I do want to hear about the wildlife,
Yes.
because we do know that unfortunately the beheaded jaguar was found in Toledo, not near Yakshe. It's a fairly good distance away. But let's talk about what you have been seeing in the area, because that really underscores the need for people to understand why protection is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the reasons that the agroforestry concession was established was to kind of provide that avenue for livelihoods, but at the same time protect the environment, kind of as a way to minimize the impact of people wanting access to the area. Because the forest reserves are essentially for exploitation. That's what they're set aside for. But a while back, the reserve was actually established as a key biodiversity area, so it kind of shows the importance of the area, not just for its natural resources that it has, but also for people. So we started around 2015. We started monitoring wildlife, very basic. We had 2 transects set up in the area. So we have rangers that are patrolling the area, but at the same time they're collecting data on birds and mammals. And just recently we started deploying some field traps, camera traps. So now we have some images of the wildlife that is there. A lot of the information that we had was kind of anecdotal information, so people seeing scarlet macaws, the monkeys, signs of jaguars around, tapirs. But we didn't really know. So without actually having seeing physically the presence there, you can't tell how rich the wildlife is. And for logging, you mentioned logging as well. There's some species that are very important. Rosewood kind of became a big issue in the south a while back. And the forest reserve is still a very important habitat for rosewood. So we know that there are areas within that reserve that have a good, healthy population of rosewood. So we want to keep that for a long time, or as long as possible, or until there is some form of sustainable extraction plan that can assist the species to kind of persist for a longer time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been seeing 4 of the 5 cats that we have at this point. So jaguars, jaguarundis, ocelots, margays.
Wow.
We've yet to get a picture of a puma, but I'm pretty sure
Really?
they're around. Yeah.
In that area?
Yeah. And we have other animals, very interesting. Tyras, we have tapirs. The monkeys are around as well, howler monkeys, spider monkeys, further back. But within the concession area, which has been converted from its original state as a forest, it still retains a lot of its wildlife. So all the cameras that we have been placed right within the cacao plot. So it is really interesting to see how wildlife is using the
So
area.
even in the areas that you're farming, the
Yes.
wildlife is still moving through, and there's no conflict, there's no problems.
So far, we haven't had any conflicts
Yeah.
within that area. I know there's in the D reserve area, there's cattle, and humans and jaguars have been kind of fighting a battle there. Human-jaguar conflict is an
Yes.
issue,
Yeah.
not just in the south but across Belize. We haven't heard anything from that neighboring cattle area, but within the cacao plots in the concession, we haven't had any reports from the farmers. So
Okay.
they're living together.
Yeah, living
in
that
harmony.
area. Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what we were hoping for.
And we're the only ones who want the cacao anyway, right?
Yeah, and in 2015 we also sighted the Harpy Eagle in the
Oh,
agroforestry
wow.
concession. So Harpy Eagles, they require a large tract of forest to
Beautiful.
thrive because they have to hunt. And within that area, it's connected to the Maya Mountains
Yes.
with Bleeding Nature Reserve, Golden Stream Corridor Preserve,
Yes.
Chicky Bull, all that area. So we're very excited to see a Harpy Eagle. So
Of course.
our team were out transporting cacao seedlings and came to visit them. So we know that the area is very good for wildlife, and
Yeah.
we want to maintain it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to mention that because I is
Again.
here excited about wildlife.
Yeah.
That's a huge
and
animal.
a Harpy Eagle is a.
That's huge. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the products that you have here,
Yes.
because I also wanted to note, we do know that Belize is becoming even better known for the cacao that we are able to grow. And so you have, how many acres did you say again?
It's a 936 acre, but so far the guys have planted 360 acres of cacao.
And so what's the level of production that you're expecting to have from that?
So far they have produced approximately 12,000 pounds of cacao, but it can be a little bit more because what we do is we track the amount of cacao that is produced on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And last year alone, we started seeing harvesting within the concession, and last year alone, the guys produced like 6,000 pounds of cacao. But we know that will definitely increase because our calculation has made it all the way up to 60,000 pounds for
Wow.
this year alone.
Yeah.
We know that one of the things that have affected the cacao plantations is really climate change. This year alone was a very hot year, so
Hot.
we saw some of the decrease in terms of the yields of cacao, but
Yeah.
we do know that concession has huge potential in producing even more volume of
And there's
cacao.
a greater demand. I mean, you still can be able to produce more because there's more of a market for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. There's a market for cacao. Currently, the farmers in Trio sell their cacao to Maya Mountain cacao for $1 a pound,
Okay.
which is not a good pricing in my point of view. But like what Max mentioned, one of the things we're trying to do is to encourage value-added products because we do believe that is definitely the way to go for these farmers. Value-added. There are farmers that are producing their own cacao juice. They bottle it. They've produced their own cacao juice. Some of them are trying to make their own chocolate.
As we have there.
Yeah, as we can
We
see
have
there.
some samples here. Yeah.
So they're experimenting in all avenues, you
Yeah.
know, and that is really something that Yakshay wants to help the farmers in doing.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to taste cacao juice. I mean, I've never had
It's
that.
nice.
My first time hearing about it. But I'm also seeing here two different color honey. I'm not sure it's because of the way it's being bottled, or is there a? Can you
Yes.
tell us about those, please?
So the honey varies it depends on where you have your apiary. Like for in the agroforestry concession in Maya Mountain North, you would find a gold color honey, and that's because of the plants that we have around and the flowers that the bees they forage on. So that really determines the color of your honey.
It also determines the taste of the honey.
Okay.
Sometimes certain seasons of the year you can get very bitter honey. It's not necessarily bad. It's a different flavor to it.
Yeah.
We know that bees are actually responsible for pollinating. So can we say that the forest life is actually growing there because of bees being in that particular area? Can we see this? Can we talk about this?
Yeah. Well, yes and no. The honey that is produced by the Africanized honeybee mostly. So this is just one species out of so many species that we have,
yes.
and that is one of the challenges that we face, that we don't know how many species are around. And that's something we will hopefully be doing this year, conducting an inventory of native bees and trying to figure out which of those species are honey producers.
Yeah.
Back in the day, people would keep bees, but it wasn't the Africanized bee, because the Africanized bee is now a naturalized species. But it is very, very good for producing honey, so we're promoting the practice.
Yeah.
But there's other species as well that add to that kind of diversity in the forest, and pollination is very important. So not just the honeybee, but in general, many of the other bee species.
So do you also help them in the marketing of their products?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
As you can see there, we
It's a
started
beautiful bottle. I was watching it.
some packaging with them. The next step would be to formalize a branding for the entire amount of honey that's produced within the area, which we call the Maya Golden Landscape, where we work. And it would be definitely to bring them together and to begin to sell not only within Belize but outside, because we want to ensure that the farmers get a maximum price for all their products.
Of course.
And so can we find this across the country, or?
Not as yet in that packaging, but the farmers are packaging in this bottle here.
Yeah.
And you could just contact directly the farmers and they would be able to send across Belize. We also have a few that has went to San Pedro, Kikakar. So we want to also connect the farmers directly to the buyers.
And it is, I mean, you've worked with them to be, to have the right practices to call it organic honey. And so it's Maya Golden Honey if we find it anywhere in stores.
A product of Belize. Wow.
All right. Now, just looking forward, so you have this great example that you've been able to implement successfully over the years. Have you found other management systems across the country perhaps coming to you and exploring possibilities of using reserved land for communities to be able to make profit?
Definitely, we have been swamped with a lot of interest from people all over the country.
Yeah.
And it's a pity that we don't have a little branch of Yaksha somewhere else in the country.
Not yet.
Not yet, but maybe. So yes, we have been receiving a lot of interest from people from different groups. Like right now, we're starting our collaboration with the Green Creek Cooperative, and that's a group based in San Jose, Toledo, and they manage the Green Creek Reserve. So they have 250 acre of land, and basically what they want is to implement some of these conservation efforts into that 250 acre of land.
Yeah.
So they are cacao farmers, but they have seen the work that Yaksha has been doing in the Maya Golden Landscape, so they want to implement some of these practices there. We've had several exchanges with the Vaca Forest Reserve as well in Chiquibul area. We've had farmers coming to Toledo to visit the concession and to learn about these practices, because they too are doing something similar, but they're more leaning towards the formality of it. We've had farmers from Orange Rock coming, seeing and learning about agroforestry and the Ingali cropping, because they too are interested in some sort of restoration within their lands. So there is a lot of interest for the work that we do and for the practices that we promote.
Because it's such a key solution to the question that a lot of people have in terms of how do you maintain the conservation efforts that we have, but still also accommodate for the growth of communities and sustainability of their own livelihoods as well.
Yes.
So if you were to say, just before we close, what is the one important aspect that you have to be able to look at when you're talking about working along with communities within a conservation space? What is the one tool to success?
I think it's the balance. It's the balance of enhancing livelihoods, but also integrating conservation. And I think that once that is integrated, you will see a behavioral change from community in terms of what they want.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we could learn from other countries as well, you know. We don't have to wait until our rivers are dry or our forests are gone for us to say, well, we need to do something. And I think that that is the essence of what Yakshe has been trying to do over the past 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, we know that it has not been easy. It's been very challenging. Conservation efforts in Belize is very challenging.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we make great strides in terms of educating our community and having their support and having them understand that there needs to be a balance between their livelihoods and the conservation efforts.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming in and giving us an update as to what you have been doing down south. And we do look forward to seeing more Maya Golden Honey available across the country soon. But thank you for coming in and sharing this update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about summer activities accessible through the BFLA. So stay tuned.